right, you guys, it's episode 85 of Inner Demons, and without further ado, I'm gonna get straight to it. But before I do, you guys know I always got to take care of my household business. So let me make a quick comment real quick in regards to the last video that we put out. That last video, it drew a lot of criticism. There was a lot of good comments. Some of you seen it for what it was. Everybody's not gonna be happy. And I put the content out and it's going to draw whatever it draws. I'm okay with that. That's why I always tell you guys to, drop your opinions. Some of the stuff is adolescent. Some of it's intelligent. Some of it just seems like, cats jump on the platform just to create controversy or to spew hate. And that's okay too. Everybody's entitled to their opinion. You can't define me by one video. A lot of people said, this last video, you're just trying to bring this dude down. Some guy went into a long comment about you're still playing politics and you're still trying to take people out the game. Is that what you really think? Is that what you really think? You think I got time to do that? Like I'm on some Machiavellian type of bullshit? That's not what I'm doing. But that's okay. You probably thought that was a long, intelligent comment, but it was just a bunch of malarkey, straight up. And that's no disrespect. It is what it is. I'm like, bro, where do you get this from? Like, seriously, you put a lot of thought into that, and it's mind-blowing. But I cannot be defined by one video. I do what I do because, I try to enlighten the youth, regardless to what some of you think. Say what you will. It's not going to change nothing. I'm not going to wake up tomorrow any different than I woke up today. So, those of you that just jump in the comments just to be heard or to hear yourself spew the hate and the negativity, that's okay. You're still giving me views. You're still helping the algorithm. So I don't mind. Anyways, let me get into this next video. So this video, this is a major turning point right here. You guys, up until this point, you guys know that me being in the Santa Clara County Jail, it has been a tough run up until this point. Everything that has happened from the time I went to the observation cell, from the very first day I got into the county jail, being moved around from different observation cells, different max tiers. Again, I've never tried to justify anything that I've done. All I've ever said was that, a lot of it is self-inflicted. I understand that. And I've never, shied away from that. But the thing is the only thing I've ever asked for was the benefit of the doubt. And I don't think, I went through 20, 25 years of functioning within this movement. And I can't say that I went that long and was just under some different kind of impression of how the organization worked. I was educated. These things were instilled within me. I believe I was educated right. And I don't think I was wrong to ask for the benefit of the doubt. There's a lot of individuals that make those same phone calls and it never comes to light. And they go on to live long careers. They go to prison and it never comes out. Mine came out. I was trying to pacify my wife for the reasons why I told you guys. But there's individuals, trust me, it happens every day. They're on those phones talking about how they're going to come home and it's going to be okay. And that's what they do. A lot of women that we're with, they don't want to go through another 10, 15 years of being locked up with somebody. It's a tough lifestyle. They're locked up as well. So a lot of the times when we end up in these situations, women, they get tired of the same song and dance. Man, you're back in again. How many times have I heard you're going to change? This was the last time. You come back out here, you get involved in the same shit. Now you're looking at a 3-strike case. How many individuals have done that? So I don't think it was completely out of the question that I expected the benefit of the doubt. And it goes to show that within my heart was still in it. Otherwise, I would have been okay with falling off, or I would have fell off in the very beginning when this case first dropped, when I was about to get indicted, when they put the cuffs on me, when they tried to come at me, in the Beecher Court, when I moved to that house, and I felt like everything was temporary over there. I had a chance to cooperate back then, but I didn't because it just wasn't in the cards for me. It wasn't something that I was thinking about. Like, next time I get busted, I'm gonna be looking at a 3-strike case. Man, I went through almost 10 years of walking on eggshells, being a 3-striker. And I knew that that day was going to come, that I was going to end up getting caught up. Somebody was going to tell on me. I was going to end up making a mistake. I was going to slip up somewhere and they were going to get me. We all think about these things. If you're somebody that's functioning right now, you're active and you're functioning, you have thought about what you're going to do when that day comes. You have thought about it. Are you going to hold your mud or are you going to fall off and save your own ass? To me, I had never thought about, you know what, when I catch this 3rd strike, I'm going to go ahead and lay it down and try to help myself and throw everybody under the bus. That thought never crossed my mind. I can look you guys in the eyes right now and tell you that. However, when things happened in the county jail, you know, people started pushing agendas. You know, I made a commitment to the NF. I made a blood oath to the NF. I committed my life to them. I gave up a lot of stuff. I sacrificed a lot. I came through on my end for 20-something years. When I fell into a situation where there was some adversity, there was, you know, I was suspect. Although nothing was concrete, I was under a black, dark cloud of suspicion. And this was their time to show their loyalty to me. And they didn't do that. They did not do that. I had been in this situation many times. This wasn't my third. This case right here wasn't the first 3-strike case I caught. There was a couple other cases I caught before this where I thought that was going to be it, that was the end of the road right there. I was going to catch a life case, whether it was out there in Monterey County. When I got caught up in Mendocino County, you know, I thought that was it right there. But, you know, I hunkered down, I fought that case, and I continued to push forward. That's what I did. That's when I knew the feds was on me. I told you guys the feds came up to the county jail. They basically tried to, you know, play those scare tactics. They brought that folder up. They had all my letters in there showing me that they knew that I was communicating, you know, that they had my codes figured out and all that. But I didn't let that discourage me. That did not break my resolve. I continued to function. So why was I asking for too much when I asked to be given the benefit of the doubt? All I asked was, look, I know I fucked up. I know I said some things on the phone that I shouldn't have said. However, go ahead, put me on freeze. Let's let the case, you know, let's let the case play out in the courts and let's see what happens. You know, shut me down, do whatever you got to do. I didn't care at the time. All I cared about was that, you know, I preserved my career, I stayed in good standings, and that, you know, I made it out of that county jail still active with my name and my career still intact. That's all I was asking for. Yeah, I know now that was, you know, that wasn't the smartest thing to do. I was looking at a life case. I was going to spend the rest of my life in prison. My freedom, obviously, you know, freedom meant something, but I was brainwashed at that time. I was still, that fire was still burning in my heart. So my mindset at that time was just make sure that, you know, you get through this case, that in the long run, no matter how much time you get, 150, 180 years, that at least you come out of here still active. Get up to the Bay, you know, let them run their investigation up there, and hopefully them brothers up there will see that, you know what, Boxer has functioned over the years, has never been in a situation where his loyalty has ever been in question. Nothing ever came of those phone calls. They were just conversations he had on the phone. There's no police reports. There's nothing to substantiate that he ever cooperated. So he deserves a pass. We understand that. Them being convicts, they understand how it is. You know, we're not robots. When we get locked up, our women, our wives, again, they get tired of playing that game. They get tired of doing time. They get tired of, you know, going out to functions with their girls and seeing their girls with their husbands, their men, and she's sitting there by herself. They get tired of, being in a relationship where there's no physical part of that relationship. After a while, it gets old. We got one life. You drop the ball and, time will pass you by. So I'm sure just as a convict, put the organization aside, just as a convict, somebody that has been accustomed to doing time, they all understood that, having our ladies with us, keeping them in our corner for whatever reasons, financial, this is somebody that has always kept up my morale, just having somebody there, being in a relationship, the mother of my kids, whatever the case might be, saying whatever you need to say to keep her pacified, to keep her in your corner while you're doing time. However long it might be, 5 years, 10 years, she's a Clydesdale, a thoroughbred, 20 years, or if she's in it for the long haul. It shouldn't have mattered. I get it. I shouldn't have said what I said, but it is what it is, man. So anyways, my point in all this is that this is a major turning point right here in this story. All the things, all the adversity that I had been to up until this point, I was taking it in stride, and not once did I let it shake my resolve. I would be lying if I told you guys I didn't get discouraged, because like I said, when I fell into a situation where I put myself in question, I should have been given the benefit of the doubt. It's not like I had something in my history that, well, B got priors for doing this, or B, he's always been on shaky ground. You remember this situation right here? You remember when B got caught up with these individuals and this came out? Or what about that situation right there? There's nothing. My history, my resume, so to speak, throughout the years, even as an NR member, as a Norteño, just a homeboy out there on the streets in my neighborhood, there's nothing that could ever come back that would ever make somebody question whether or not my loyalty was really in question. So let's get to it. I'm on the tier now. I've been back on the tier for about 17 months. So for those of you that really have everything in perspective and really understand the situation that I'm in, keep in mind, I'm back on an active tier. I came out of the situation that the county jail was trying to put me in. They were trying to put me in protective custody. I'm back on an active tier. Just that fact alone is enough to get somebody whacked. So, that should show where my heart was at, where my loyalty was at. How many cats would have came back? I'm not saying I'm special. I'm the only one that would have done something like that, but it's far and few, trust me. If you don't pat them on the butt like a baby and really like just cater to these guys that have fell in some kind of questionable standing, or they got whacked, talking them back to an active tier, talking them into coming back, paying fines, whatever it might be. A lot of guys, just depending on their situation, depending on the circumstances, the details, what it consisted of, will not come back, will not even consider it, because they think that I get back on an active tier, I get back out there on the yard, these fools are gonna whack me, they're gonna cut my throat, they're gonna stick me. I've seen it happen, so don't lose sight of that fact that, being back on this tier now with active NF members, active NR members, not everybody down there was a dum-dum. Some of these guys were sharp. Some of these individuals have been around. They understood politics. So, I told you guys, Loco Tomas, the one that showed me the letter from Chuco, he was one of them. He was somebody that was, he was facilitating the communication between Chuco, the, Pelican Bay, and the county jail. And obviously, my situation was one of the main topics that was always being discussed in these letters. And I'm going to go into that more later. You guys will understand. But all that stuff was getting monitored. Those letters were all getting copied. They were getting photocopied. So even though I'm sure these guys thought that they were being undetected, that they were just that slick, the stuff that they were using, man, the verbiage in some of these letters that I seen, I'm like, are you kidding me? These are not no pre-established codes. There's not like it's an elaborate code with the key anybody with any kind of common sense, a little bit of brain and a little bit of, you know, street savviness, knowing how some of the lingo goes. So anybody reading that letter would have understood exactly what they were talking about. My name was right there, clearly. John Mendoza, boxer, San Francisco. And then they go into their, you know, their message, whatever they were trying to convey to each other. So it was like taking candy from a baby. It was simple. It wasn't nothing that you really had to sit there, read, scratch your head, like, what are they talking about? It was just that open, that blatant, that sloppy, that messy. So anyways, you know, these guys are all well aware of my situation. You got Lencho and his minions up there on the fourth floor, and they're all pretty much in cahoots. You got all these guys that are active, other NF members that are up there with them at that time. Sammy Ramirez, Wino was one of them. You got Charlie Campa from Hollister. These are all NF members that are up there by now. They're catching cases. They're getting indicted. There's like 4 different regiments. And I told you guys a little bit about how they got caught up. Lencho's wife, Debbie, was the one that got Sammy and his regiment caught up. Lencho and his wife were the reasons why Charlie Campa and his regiment got indicted. So all these guys are over there on the fourth floor. And as long as they're active, they're all talking that same talk. Why is Boxer still over there? Absent the paperwork, absent of anything to substantiate what they were accusing me of, other than the phone calls. But yet, everybody's pushing this agenda. Meanwhile, everybody's focused on B, why these guys got their own issues. Eventually, they're all starting to fall off. Here they come, one by one, come walking in. This guy was one of the ones that was backing Lencho. Now, here he comes. He lays it down. Another jaw dropper a couple months later. Here's another one. All these guys that were working in the regiments, there was so many people cooperating in that county jail, in these cases, in these indictments, that the bus was full. They filled the bus up. They got cats hanging off the bumper, off the front bumper, off the back bumper. You got cats on top of the bus. You had cats literally trying to get on the phone and find out, where is Dan Livingston at? This guy, where is he at? I need to get in touch with Dan Livingston so I can call and I can get myself out of this situation. By the time these cases were done, make no mistake about it. Let me tell you guys right now, just so you understand this clearly. You had my indictment, you had Lencho's indictment, you had Sammy Ramirez's indictment, and you had Charlie Campa's indictment. Then you had Dancing Bear and Kramer's indictment. 5 different indictments. Each one of these indictments has 15 to 20 different individuals that are functioning. That's, you know, the manpower that were functioning within these regiments. Some of them were in Sammy's regiment, and some of them were in Dancing Bear's regiment. So there was some that were in 2 indictments. So what I'm trying to say is that, like Manos and Looney, they were indicted with Lencho, and they were considered as part of Lencho's indictment. But at the same time, they were also part of Dancing Bear's indictment because they were considered his manpower, because they were on the phone, you know, talking about his business on the phone. So, you know, you got all these individuals though. And as long as they're active, they're talking that talk, the loyalty, 10 toes down, you know what I mean? There's nothing that can shake me. I'm a real one, blah, 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 right? Until these cases start getting pushed through the courts and they start whacking them with these, you know, these 186.22s, all these gang enhancements. And now, you know, what used to be a case 16, 2, and 3, maybe 3, 4, 5 years. Now, these prosecutors and these gang cops are stacking up the numbers, and they're hitting guys with like 15, 20, 28, 29 years. And this is when you got an influx of individuals that just started laying down, that start dropping out. And you guys got to understand, not just my phone calls came out. There were phone calls from all 5 of these regiments, thousands of them. There were so many phone calls that My iPod didn't have enough memory. I had to pick which, phone calls I wanted downloaded on my iPod, or I had to upgrade and get another iPod, a bigger one, 230 gigabytes, because there were just so many phone calls. And you would hear, a lot of these guys being real critical on the phone with their girl. We call it pillow talk, talking about organization business, talking about politics with their old ladies. Babe, this individual, whoop, whoop, he laid it down, or this guy did this, or this scandalous motherfucker did that. So you're hearing all these things that these guys are talking about, and it's all sounding good when everything was, when they weren't looking at a lot of time, or they were famous in the mix. Maybe they got a little tier security position, or maybe they gave them a yard security position, or a secretary, whatever. But as soon as they start going through the courts and the numbers start getting, big, they start looking at all these years. Now you got all these cats dropping out. And when eventually later on, when I would run into these cats, that's when I would confront them. Hey, so, you said this, you said that, you said this, right? And that's when a lot of these cats would break it down. At the time, bro, I'm still active. I'm still, my mind was still brainwashed. I'm still doing my thing. I understand now, bro. It took a while for the blinders to come off. How many times have I heard that? Straight up. That's why when I catch a lot of these comments where dudes are talking about, man, I'm still doing my thing. These guys, where do these guys come from? They're not real ones. I'm loyal. I've always been loyal. My name's good in the hood. I can go back to my neighborhood. Yeah, okay. That's because either you're not really that deep into the politics and you haven't really got into the thick of it, and you haven't really been in a predicament where you're looking at that kind of adversity. So you're just a poo butt, or you're just somebody that's on the outside looking in, not even relevant. So that's why I'm not critical about guys that walk away from the lifestyle, because I understand the consequences are real. When your life is hanging in the balance and you're looking at all that time, reality has a way of shaking you loose, waking you up. I've said it before, I'm going to say it again. You got one chance at the game of life. One chance. Most of us are going to live to 50s or 60s, 70s, if you're lucky, 80, if you want to be walking around, with a cane and smelling like Geritol, and knees don't work no more, elbows shot out. So if you're fortunate, you might live that long. But either way, however it goes, you only got one shot at life. And if you make the wrong choices in this game of life and you drop the ball, you pick up that life sentence, you're 60 years old and you pick up 30 years, it's too late. You have to lay, that's your bed, you have to lay in it, and that's the way it's going to go for you. That's your fate, your destiny. Can't change that. It's already in the history books. But my point is if you're not one that's smart and doesn't make the right decisions, intelligent decisions, then you're going to end up paying for it. And you're going to end up being somebody that's going to be sitting in one of those concrete boxes someday. And you're going to, when a light bulb goes off, either because they closed the door on you, or because you're realizing that time's passing you by and you have nothing in this life to show for yourself except for your little fishbowl TV, your state issue canteen, whatever you got in that cell. And that light bulb goes off and you're like, you know what? Damn, I wish I would have been smart enough to realize these things years ago when I had an opportunity. All my good years, my younger years, those, the best years of my life, they're all gone. So I just don't want you guys to lose sight of that. I'm back on this tier. I've been there 17 months now. I'm trying to, to hold the course. I'm trying to be loyal. I'm still trying to push forward. My girl, she just died. Okay, she passed away, and my family has always meant something to me. My mom, my stepfather, the little bit of family that I have, My family's broken. They're all over the place. Some of them I don't even know. So my little circle of family, really, it was small. It was just my mom, my grandmother, my stepfather, and a couple of maybe aunts and uncles, like 2 or 3. And that's it. That was the extent of my family. So my family meant something to me. Obviously, they were precious, and my freedom meant something. I wanted to be out there in the streets like everybody else. But I made a commitment to the organization. I made a commitment, and I knew that someday my life was going to end in prison. At least that's what I committed myself to, and that's what I was okay with that. When I made, that commitment to the organization, I knew that that day would come. I knew it would, whether it was because of the criminal activity I was involved in as an NF member, or the criminal activity I was involved in just because I was boxer, because that's what I used to do out there. I was a criminal. This was something that was instilled within me, my mentality from a very young age. So I knew I was going to spend my life in prison. When my girl died, though, I was like, you know what? That's the one last possession that I had that has been taken away from me. All the other materialistic things, the cars, the money, my personal possessions, it's all gone. That's okay. But from that point forward, I felt like, you know what? Okay, spending the rest of my life in prison, I'm ready for it. I'm ready to go. I had been there at that county jail for that long. At that point, I want to say it was around, so this was around 2008. It was close to 5 years at that point. You guys might not think 5 years in the Santa Clara County Jail is a long time. It's a long fucking time, especially in that county jail. And that's a lot of SOS, man. Trust me. So I was burnt out on that county. I was burnt out with the whole situation that I had to continuously explain myself to these youngsters that they're, just young kids, man, that are still learning, that have never been nowhere. I had to explain my situation to them. A lot of these guys don't even understand it. They don't even understand the politics. They're barely potty trained. You know what I'm saying? Oh, man. So, that part of it right there, just the whole thing about me being under a cloud of suspicion. I've never been in that situation. The entire time I've functioned as a North Daniel, an NR member, an NF member, I've never been in a situation where my loyalty was in question. So for me, it was a bad situation to be in. It was, I've always been looked at as a true believer, somebody that has pushed a hard line, not against the homies, but for the organization. I gave it everything that I had. I tried to be the best NF member that I could be. And regardless to what you guys think about that lifestyle, regardless to what you think about that organization, being a criminal organization, being involved in criminal activities, victimizing people, terrorizing people, all that stuff, I still tried to be the best that I could be, when I was doing my thing, when I was still active. So it was a tough situation to be in. So, here I am. I'm on the tier, and I told you guys everybody got indicted on that tier. Pretty much everybody. When they came through and called them for court, they literally went for every cell. Bing, 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 bing. Oh, shoot. So they came through the morning that they called for court, and like I said, they pretty much cleared the whole tier, except for the Asian brothers up front. It was echoing up in that tier. There was nobody back there but me. I mean, being realistic, there might have been like 1 or 2 other homies back there. And I'm not saying nobody's demeaning these guys, but they weren't really in the mix like that. So there was a couple of them, but from the time they came back from court, Looney, Manos, Dancing Bear, you guys got to remember, Dancing Bear came back. The thing I might have missed when I explained to you guys how he ended up getting caught up, I guess let me just say this, not to get off track, but when Dancing Bear got arrested, I guess Livingston was on him from the day he got out of the jail, the day that he walked up to my gate and was like, B, he stuck his little pinky through my gate. Look, I'm gone, brother. You know what I mean? I'm going to get out there. I'm going to take care of this individual. He'd rather French kiss a rattlesnake than to fuck with me and blah, 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 right? But, you got my number, keep your spirits up, brother. You know what I'm saying? Don't make me regret doing this and all that good stuff. And then he got out. So from that point on, Livingston was on him. He was on his shit from the day he got out because he knew what he was doing. They listened to the phone calls. I'm going to get out and I'm going to basically take over Kramer's entire regiment. All his manpower are basically just going to come over here and they're going to work for me now. So being that they put all that on the phone, Livingston was laying in the cuts, probably sitting at the front of the jail waiting for him to walk out so he could start watching them right there. Anyways, there was some question as to whether, as to when Dancing Bear got arrested, they found a hypodermic syringe somewhere out by his front door. But there was some question about whether or not he was out there using dope. And it was a minor issue, a little petty issue that came up, but it was something that was thrown out there. And they tried to really go in on it. The cops that wrote up the police reports, they really tried to go in on it because they knew Dancing Bear would get in trouble. So they really highlighted hypodermic syringe in front of his door, right there, 2.2 centimeters away from, the door frame. It was something that they really tried to blow up. But anyway, so these guys all go to court. And when they come back from court, there's just the atmosphere there's a lot of stress on the tier, obviously, which is understandable. Some of these guys were getting ready to go home. Now they're looking at an NF indictment, and they all got hit with 186.22 was the gang enhancements for every charge that they got if they got a conspiracy, if they got a possession for sale. And that's what they were getting these guys with. The ones that like Looney Amanos and some of the others that were doing transactions over the phone, like, hey, they have a homie out there on the streets. They'll tell the homie, hey, pick up this ounce and you're going to go over here and you're going to get this money from this female right there. Well, even though they're not out there actually doing it, it's like a constructive transaction where they're involved, but they're not really right there in close proximity, if that makes sense to you guys. So anyways, they're getting hit for gang enhancement for every felony they got that comes with whatever they got charged with. So that shit adds up. A possession for sale with the gang enhancement. This over here with the gang enhancement. That over there with the gang enhancement. Some of these gang enhancements can carry up to 10 years. So they come back, all of them are stressed out. The stress is thick on the tier. The whole atmosphere kind of changes. That tier was usually lit. We're down there drinking. We're down there on Sundays. It's all the way live. We're watching football. China, he was like the casino down there. He was like Las Vegas. China was somebody that had a lot of money, and all the Asian brothers that were down there. Well, he had a lot of money because he owned I want to say it was a high-end like auto parts business or something like that, where he was selling auto parts. So he had a lot of money. He was doing well for himself. But what he would do is he'd send money to all his Asian brothers on the tier, and he'd have them all buy like just a crazy amount of soups. And every Sunday, there would be anywhere from 200 to 300 soups being bet on parlays, on just straight gambles, on NFL football, on college football. Every week I used to look forward to that because it used to take my mind off of that environment. It used to take my mind off of my girl being sick or my girl dying. It used to take my mind off of being in the Santa Clara County jail, looking at all this time. So I used to look forward to the Sundays, sending China 70, 80 different bets, parlays, and all that. Like I said, there would be anywhere from $500-$600 a week in betting going on down there. So, the tier was always, it was a good tier. There were a lot of good homies down there. There was always, something going on. It wasn't a dead tier. Everybody down there knew how to do time. And I'm going to tell you guys this before I get to the end of this video. So I told you guys that all the time that I've done in these shoot programs, in these holes, just being in those atmospheres, I was able to train my mind. My sense of awareness was something that was trained, you know, especially in a situation like this, being back on an active tier, everything that's going on with me. You know, I trained my awareness to like just be, it was peaking, you know, it was peaking. I'm always listening for different things, conversations. I'm always, you know, paying attention to what's going on in the tier, paying attention to people's body language, their eye contact, anything to break the monotony, anything that will alert me to where like, B, there's an alarm over here on 2. We need to check that out because this dude's acting different. Or B, boom, we got an alarm on 6. This guy over here, he's not talking. Boom, B, you got an alarm on 8. This guy right here, he usually walks by and he always nods his head. And he's not doing it. He didn't do it this morning. Something's up. Whether or not it's something big or he's just in one of his moves, I don't know, but it's something that warrants looking closer into. So what I'm basically trying to tell you guys is that because of all the time that I've done and just my sense of survival, just being in prison and being in war zones, I used to train my mind. My mind was trained to detect any threats, you know, any threats or anything that might send up a red flag. I would detect things, you know, I would listen to conversations. Like I told you guys, a good example was I could be in San Quentin. I could be in a place like C-section, fucked up place, one of the most fucked up holes to be in. Sturdy, it's loud, it's overcrowded. You got a lot of individuals talking, yelling, screaming all day. One of the only ad says where they hand you earplugs when you come in, when you know, as a new arrival. And I could listen to conversations, 1,000 conversations going on the tier, and just key in on one conversation because I heard just one word that made me key in on that conversation, whether it was pedazo or, you know, a hit or green light. So I could be listening to all these conversations, 20 or 30 of them at the same time. And that one word would redirect all my attention to just that one conversation. All the other ones I'd block out because this was one that I needed to pay attention to. It was a heightened sense of security. You guys that have done a lot of time, I'm sure you understand what I'm talking about. When I talk about things like being in Pelican Bay and everything is based on sound, you knowing what the doors sound like just by the way that they squeak on that rail or by somebody's gate when they're up on the upper tier. You're listening to how they're walking and you know this is such and such. You know, those types of things. Those are the things that prison does to your mind. You know, I used to always, when I would get out, I would always have like a line of security. I tell people, man, don't step over that line right there. You know, and it was just a habit. You know, humans are accustomed to patterns and habits. We get into these routines where if we go to work and we have a certain way of doing things, we'll go and we'll do things almost identical. We get these patterns and these routines because it becomes familiar to us. You know what I mean? It's the way that our minds work. So when something changes, a habit changes, a characteristic changes, something like that, you know, that warrants looking into. Not being a schizophrenic, but you guys understand what I'm talking about. So anyways, so the tier kind of changes. I'm kind of detecting some things in the air, in the climate down there, just by the way people are acting. And but I'm chalking it up to these guys are stressed out. It's fucked up. They're all, you know, indicted. They're catching cases, and I chalk it up to that. I don't go with my gut instinct. My gut's telling me like, B, there's something on in the air that you need to pay attention to. There's something going on with this individual. I told you guys, Manos, he made a comment. I want to say it was the same day that this incident happened. He made a comment, something to the effect of, he's like, damn, B, He's like, it's fucked up, bro. He's like, I come to realize, man, that it's not just my enemies I gotta watch out for, but it's also my own people. And when he said that, it's like a red flag went up. I was like, man, is that directed towards me? Like he just throw a lug right now? But I was thinking, nah, man, he's probably thinking like, because there was confidential informants on that case. Wasn't me. There was somebody else telling that they would end up finding out. I want to say who. There was a bunch of people that cooperated in their cases, but there was information that was given that was directly related to these guys. You guys got to remember, I wasn't functioning with these guys out there on the streets, so I didn't know their business. So it was coming from, they knew that somebody was cooperating. There was a lot of different people cooperating. Anyways, that's what I chalked it up to. I was like, okay, yeah, I hear you, bro. I learned that a long time ago. I responded something to that effect. Anyway, that day is the day, at least if that's not the day they went to court, the day that I'm talking about was a day that everything was just it was just one of them long, drawn out days. Everybody was kind of just sluggish. There was no enthusiasm, out there. The energy was like just low on the tier. And something was going on, but I couldn't detect nothing that was telling me that it was directed at me. Anyways, we go through that day, and at night they get ready to run yard. So, Dancing Bear's there. I'm getting ready to go out with like Dancing Bear, Looney, Monos. There was 5 other individuals that were getting ready to go out to the yard with me, and they were letting them out. Sometimes they would let us out together. Sometimes they put us out there and they separate us. But a lot of the times, these yard officers that were letting us out, they were cool. So they'd be like, hey, you guys are cool. You guys ain't got no issues, right? Nah, hell no. We're straight, man. You know what I mean? Put us out there. We're going to shoot some basketball or something. We're going to play some handball. So they put us out there. So that night, they came to let us out for yard. They just so happened to come to my cell first. They came up, boom, box, you going to yard, or Mendoza, you going to yard? Hell yeah. So I get ready, I grab my stuff, and I cuff up. And from that point, I know that the other homies it's gonna take them a minute to cuff up and get them all ready. So my thing is, when I come out the cell, I'm gonna walk a little bit down the tier, greet some of the homies on my way, and just wait for that last man to get pulled out. So we all walk out together. So I come out the cell, and I want to say I was like say I was in 113, just for the sake of this. I'm in 113, and I walk past 112, 111, 110, and I come to like 109. So I get to 109, and I stop and spin around, because now I'm waiting for, the other homies to finish getting cuffed up. There's like 2 or 3 of them that are already out on the tier, actually out there, and they're just posted up. So we're waiting. I spin around, and I'm watching the COs cuff up the last 2 homies. My peripheral, I see something like some kind of movement out of the left side of my eye. I see something, and it causes me to turn and look. And I see what looked like a channel changer, because over there, you guys got to understand, and you'll see in this picture, the TVs are up on the wall in front of the cells. They're bolted up on the walls in front of the cells, and in order to turn the channel, you have to make a long, so you have to, just real quick, you have to make a long, you'd have to roll up paper, right? Roll paper up, but I'm talking about real tight, right? Roll paper up real tight. Well, I got a piece right here. Anyway, just rolling it up real tight like this right here. Not as thick, right? Rolling it up and then putting an extension on it, making it, however long you need it, so that you can slide it through the bars and change the channel. So for you to look down the tier and see channel changers sticking out like chopsticks, it's normal. You know, it's something that you see anytime you're out there on the tier. There's like 14 or no, there's not that many. I want to say there's probably like around 8 or 9 TVs on that whole tier. So there's always channel changers coming out to change the channels up and down the tier. So out of the corner of my eye, I see something white, and I look, and it looks like a channel changer. But as I focus in on it, I look, and there's no tip on it. There's nothing on it. It's just like paper that's rolled up. So when I look, at first I'm like, fucking, I'm thinking that one of the homies are playing, you know, he's bullshitting because Spanky was right there and some of the other homies. So I look over, and at first I'm thinking like they're playing. But then I look and I see Spanky on his gate, and he has this, what looked like a channel changer. Want to call it a spear? We'll call it a spear for the sake of this story. And then I see the expression on his face that he wasn't playing. So it was like within that split second, I felt sick. I felt sick, like, fuck, here we go again. You know, here we go again. Those of you that have been in a situation like this, you guys understand what I'm saying. It went from feeling sick to like anger real fast, because as soon as I seen it, that's when, you know, his trade slot was open. Obviously, they had planned this. The plan probably was get your trade slot open, even though there's open, you know, it's an open grill gate. There's little holes that you can stick a spear through. You know, it's better to stick it through the trade slot though. So he had the phone. So as soon as I see that he's serious and that he's, you know, trying to jab me with this channel changer that's too short, it missed by about this long. It wasn't long enough. How that could happen, I don't know. It was intentional though. I would find out later, them two guys that were in that cell did not want, they didn't want to do what they were told to do. They were told to spear me, but neither one of them wanted to do it. Matter of fact, they almost went to blows in the cell, you know, talking amongst each other like, this is NF business. I'm not getting involved. You do it. Nah, fuck that. You do it. So Spanky was the youngest. He was the one that ended up getting put up to it. Pistol Pete was his cellie. I want to say Pete, I forget his name, the individual that escaped from the Santa Clara County Jail before, knocked out one of the windows, tied a bunch of sheets together. I want to say his last name was Flores. Anyways, so when I see it, I kick the tray slot shut. Almost identical to what happened with Pony, the phone slayer. So I kicked the tray slot shut. Bam, you fucking little punk. You serious? So once I kick the tray slot shut, I'm just looking at him, and he's got this look on his face, and his cellie is standing behind him in the back of the cell, and he won't even look at me. He's just staring at the wall like he didn't want nothing to do with it. Almost like there was more hurt, you know, in his expressions than there was, you know, like him being back there, get that motherfucker. There was none of that. The tier was dead ass quiet. It was dead quiet. So when that happened, I kicked the tray slot shut, you know, Spanky backed up in the cell. And I'm like, man, for real? That what you guys gonna do? So we're doing this again? So the COs by then are trying to walk me off the tier. But I walk around them. I'm pissed off now. I'm like, man, here I am, man, trying to show you guys that I'm loyal. I'm not telling them that, but I'm just trying to catch eye contact with these cats. I walk by a couple cells. I walk all the way down to Dancing Bear's cell, and I look in, and none of them will look at me. They're all just kind of like just standing there, just like looking at the wall, man, or acting like they're reading. Nobody would say nothing. I'm like, man, it's unbelievable. This is unbelievable. You know, yeah, this is fucked up. You know what I mean? This is fucked up right here. I'm like, man, I guess this is the way it goes, right? You know, there's nothing I could do. I was hurt. I'm not gonna lie to you guys. This was my career. You know, the reason why I named this thumbnail The Walk of Shame is because that's what it felt like. Walking off the tier that day, I felt like this was the walk of shame. This was it. It was over. I knew it was over because this was the second time. This was the second time I had been in an incident like this, and I had to ask myself at that point, man, can I put that kind of trust and that kind of faith in these guys again? Can I give my back to these guys again after the second time? This is the second time they tried to do something. You know, the second time they tried to draw my blood, so to speak. So I knew in my heart that I would never be able to do that again. That from that point on, matter of fact, if I get the chance now, I'm gonna fucking whack one of you cats. I was pissed off at the time, but you know, within 10, 15 minutes, I came to the realization that these guys are just doing what they were supposed to do. None of them wanted to do it. It was obvious. It was just obvious by the way that everything went down. It was obvious by, you know, the demeanors that I seen when I walked by and I looked in their cells, the body language. You know, later on I would find out from a lot of these guys, a lot of them were hurt. They were like, B, we didn't want to do that. This fool basically dropped a filter, and the filter basically said that if you guys don't do it, it's either you or him. All you guys are going to get deemed on that tier if he's not removed off the tier. And, you know, such and such, you guys are stripped, and, you know, we can keep this going. If you guys don't get rid of him by this week, then all of you guys are going on the BNL, all of you guys, the bad news list. So, you know, it came down to either me or them, and they did what they were supposed to do, and I couldn't be mad about that. No, I would go from there to an observation cell again. And, you know, that night when I got through going through my cleaning, you know, scrubbing that cell with a toothbrush, when I would go through my normal routine that I'd been through so many times in this county jail, back in this same observation cell, I sat back and I thought about it. And I'm like, man, them brothers, I wasn't mad at them. I couldn't be. At the time I was, because I didn't have nobody else to be mad at. They were the only ones that were there physically in front of me. So, but when I thought about it, you know, I was like, man, you know, there were a select few individuals that would have had to been involved in my situation. And for them to get a green light, I knew that Lencho knew he wasn't authorized to do that. So I knew it came from somewhere else. And that told me that other people were involved, and that basically this just got to a point to where there's nothing I could do about it. It had finally got to a point to where it was out of my hands now. I felt like it was out of my reach, that there was nothing I could do. What else could I do? You know, I might have been loyal to a fault, but I'm not stupid. You know, I had been through this before. And again, you know, the last 5 years, trying to prove myself and hold on. You know, my loyalty to the homies, me as a Norteño, to my neighborhood, to all that didn't change. I still love the homies. Still, that fire was still burning. I just felt like there was a select few individuals that campaigned against me, knocked me out, knocked me down when I was in a vulnerable situation. And it's like this was the worst situation I could possibly be in. My hands are tied. I got fools pushing a line, and there was nothing I could do about it. Leadership ends up getting, you know, they transition out. Now I got these other idiots that are in control of my situation, and some of them are in cahoots with Lencho because it's a neighborhood. They're from the west side. Chuco's from the west side. Him and Lencho had a lightweight love affair going on. When I seen their letters later on, you know, I was like, man, there was nothing I could do about it. And Chuco should have never allowed Lencho to have that much influence about my situation. He shouldn't have. But anyways, let me wrap this up with this last thought. Again, you know, with regards to the title of this video, you know, walking off that tier, even walking past the Asian brothers, China and all his boys down there, you know, I had so much love for them cats. I dealt with them, you know, on the tier. We threw spreads every weekend. Like I said, we were gambling, and, you know, China became a friend of mine, and he was somebody I had a lot of respect for. China is on death row right now. Matter of fact, he was there in the county jail from death row fighting another case, but he's there right now. And Duong, those of you guys that want to Google him, you can, matter of fact, I'll put his picture up. But, you know, he's somebody I had an immense amount of respect for him. Even when I walked by his cell, China, he just stood there looking at me and he shook his head. He's like, all right, Pete. He's like, it's fucked up. But it was what it was, man. And it wasn't like I was like, all right, call the cavalry, let's go. You know what I mean? I'm done. I'm tapping out now. Everything's going down. Nah, it wasn't like that. Although they thought it was. That night, classification comes up. What's up? You ready to talk? Nah, man. Hell nah. This has been you guys' little plan all along to release my phone calls, or at least not them, but I felt like they were kind of in cahoots too. They were burning the calls, giving them to the outside agency. Outside agency gives them to the DA. The DA puts them out. And their objective was, let's put Boxer's phone calls out so that his homies will see how he's talking to his girl. And then we can have him crawling back to us, and then we'll have him eating out the palm of our hands. So now I'm like, nah, this has been your guys' agenda the whole time. That was probably the second, the time that I was probably at my second lowest moment was right there. The first one, or I'm going to say the third or the fourth, because what would happen to my mom, we'll just say at that point, that was probably the second, behind losing Vicky. This situation that I'm in now, I got law enforcement against me. I'm looking at life. Now the homies are against, they turn their back. I'm locked up. It's just a fucked up situation. I felt like, man, I just want to get the fuck up out of this county jail, get up out of here, go do my time somewhere. Man, I wish I could just snap my fingers, have a TV up in Pelican Bay, be already programmed, just be up there with life in good standings. And I wish, to me, that was like the one wish I could have had right there. I know it sounds stupid, but I'm just keeping it real with you guys. Anyways, this is a good place to end this video right here. There's a lot that was said in this video. I wanted to get this out to you guys. From this point on, things are going to get crazy. A lot of things are going to happen. You guys got to remember, there's a lot of homies that are dropping out now, especially when that happened to me. I think a lot of other homies were like, you know what? This is my time right now. Look who's on that other side. Look at who they just pulled the trigger on. And so it caused a domino effect. And you guys will see that as these episodes continue. Anyways, with that being said, I'm going to go ahead and wrap this one up. I know this is a little bit longer video than I normally do. Some of you don't even watch the whole video. Those of you that do, I appreciate you guys. I appreciate anybody just for tapping in. I got a couple videos coming out. I got some good content coming out to you guys. A lot of people have been tapping in with stories. I appreciate it. I'm overwhelmed. I can't even catch up. But it's a good thing. I appreciate you guys. And I'm going to continue to put it out there. Anybody that has stories about the Mexican Mafia, that you're willing to share those stories with me, and you want to be compensated for your time and for just sharing them, tap in with me at boxerparadigm@gmail.com. And, just tap in with me and we'll talk about it and, help us continue to put that message out there. With that being said, hopefully I'll be able to get these other two videos out to you guys tomorrow night. I want to try to get more content out this week. We've been kind of slow these last couple of days. Sandman went back home, so I know he's tired. Hopefully he ain't got no jet lag or none of that stuff. But hopefully he's up to, the next couple of days catching up where we've been kind of dark. Anyways, with that being said, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Can't wait to put out the next one. It's going to get crazy from this point on. This episode 85 of Inner Demons. And with that being said, this is your boy B, and I'm out.